Sup nerds, it's me, Luciana's, your local internet parasite, and today we are going to be talking about the gentrification of art, which literally has been in my head for the past like 1 or 2 months. So sit back, get yourself a nice and comfy blanket, maybe pour yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and let's get into it. So, have you guys noticed that lately art looks very similar to each other? Whether it be logos, designs, illustrations, art exhibitions, and even media, it all sort of just blends into each other and looks the same. Now, before we get into it, let's give you guys some context on what exactly am I talking about. So for the sake of simplicity, I am going to be using design as a base. Now, my own definition of design is basically the study and creation of the representation of an idea or abstract thought. And usually design has 7 elements, which are line, shape, form, color, space, texture, and value. But we're going to be focusing specifically on shape for this argument. To understand shape and design is very simple. So I'm just gonna give you like a bit of a rundown. For this example, I'm going to be using character design. Everyone knows that character design is basically the creation of characters made to stand out in a movie, show, or just a piece of media that you're watching. This can be in an illustration, this can be in an animated show, or it can even be in a movie and things like that, or a comic book. One of the things that you need to understand is that character design uses shapes to convey language. The simplest way that we all know this is by the uses of circles, squares, and triangles. Circles are usually used for bubbly characters, such as Fiona from Fiona and Cake. Squares are used for more rigid or do-well characters, such as Frank Brown from Win or Lose. And triangles are usually used to convey characters who are sharp or more cut and edge, like Amity from The Owl House. Now, of course, every single character doesn't just use like one of the shapes. You can also interchange them. Some examples of this is Wendy from Gravity Falls, who not only has triangle shapes, but she also has circle shapes, or even Rigby from Regular Show, who has a mix of square and circle shapes. And the mixes of these shapes causes a much more complex character that is much more interesting to the visual eye. Now that we have the idea of character design, what exactly do I mean by the gentrification of art? Now, the word gentrification of art is not exactly a word, but it's sort of like a word that is sort of made up to basically explain how I feel about this subject. So to understand that, you first need to understand what gentrification is. So according to the Merriam-Webster, gentrification is a process in which a poor area, as of a city, experiences an influx of middle class or wealthy people who renovate and rebuild homes and businesses, and which often result in an increase of property values and displacement of earlier, usually poor residents. Now, when I use the word gentrification alone is a completely different subject, talking about socioeconomics. But here in this channel, I sort of focus about art and like doing animation memes and stuff. So I'm using the word gentrification, but I add the word art in front of it. So by changing its context by that thing, I basically made up like this new word. So I'm going to describe art gentrification as the process in which wealthy individuals underpay artists to design characters in a certain way or shape, causing a generalization or even lack of creativity in art design in the media we consume, whilst making the prices for purchase higher for the consumer. Now, that's a little bit of a big word, but just trust me in this, bro. Okay, so what do I mean by like underpaying artists and like doing all this stuff and basically just, gentrification of art? Well, some examples that I would use to explain gentrification of art is basically the never-ending subscription services we see of big corporations out there, such as Disney or Hulu or Netflix, but still underpaying the artists behind it, and still the quality of the work that we get from all of the subscription services just continues substantially coming down. Not just that, but we also see that the corporate world is quite literally shaping pop culture. Many of the popular media we see, whether it be one of the current popular shows or the images that we see in advertisements, are sort of just blending together. And Lord knows that it's only gotten worse as AI has been spreading like an infectious disease in all of the tables in those offices. And it literally is influencing the art community and its artists. Like, they're literally making the artists boring. They're making them also having to do this repeated design over and over again. We also see it not just in advertisements, but in the work that we see online, where like, if you continue seeing the same thing over and over again, you're not going to see artists trying new things or experimenting, just sort of repeating what they see on their day-to-day life. Because after all, art is a representation of what we think of and what we see in our day-to-day life. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to say that art was better before. I would actually argue that there wasn't really a point in time where art was better, or in a point in the future where I think that art is going to like become like this completely new thing and it's going to be better. For example, the media that we see nowadays that is the most popular is usually media that either comes from the United States or Japan, or I guess you could argue Korea if we're talking comic books, but like mostly the media that we see is like United States and Japan, you know, like we see the animated shows from the United States and the animated shows from Japan. The majority of shows that we see nowadays are like from the United States, from Hollywood and things like that. But we're not really focusing on media that it's outside of like those two big, like, you know, conglomerates of like media itself. We also, and it's actually made me quite curious about what other medias can we find outside of like, you know, Japan and the United States. And let me tell you, I have found like so much fun stuff. Like, for example, I found this thing called African Tale, which is like this media that was done by Russia, which actually shows a beautiful representation of Black people back in like the Jim Crow era, which is honestly beautiful. Then there's like other stuff, like I've seen like The Thief and Cobbler, which is not fully done, but it was published in Canada. Or like, for example, like the movie of Persepolis that was done in the UK, or La Naguala that was made in Mexico. And I just feel like we need to, as a whole, start seeing art, or I guess in this context, animation, as more than just like something that is just supposed to come from like just one place, but it needs to be expanded more on that. Not just that, but I feel like the more I see art in general nowadays, it just sort of feels like it repeats itself. Whether it be in character design or drawings that I see from art mutuals that I have on social media, or even art that I would see like in my own college campus in my art program. Like, it just keeps blending into each other, and I just wish that I would be able to see like much more interesting shapes, much more experimentation, much more newer things. And it's why like I have tried to see if there's a way for me to do much more experimentation with my work and with my art as well, especially because I don't exactly see myself becoming a full-on artist, but I'm actually planning to sort of like keep this as more something that I do for myself that I like to share, especially because I don't really see myself as trying to commercialize on my art, but instead I rather use my art as a way to express myself and showcase it to the world. And this is because I know that I am a hypocrite at the end of the day. I also have fallen victim into repeating the same themes and doing the things that I see online over and over again in my work. And I am a strong believer that to be able to cause change, you need to be the first one to do the change. Now, this is a bit of a sort of generalization of everything, but I just feel like we need to work more on how to make gentrification of art stop, because what happened to ugly art? Like, what happened to fucked up art? Like, what happened to the art that you would see and it would like be grotesque or weird, or that would be like infinitely like just like much more interesting to look at and would like make you think, like things like in my head were coming, like for example, like where's the artist that would do another Piss Jesus? Like, where are they? Like, what happened to like weird art, weird fucked up art? Like, the only times that I'm able to see like weird art is through performance art, but I'm sure that there's more types of art out there. Like, what happened to the animations, to the drawings, to the videos, to like everything? Like, why are we so scared of being weird, of being misunderstood, of showcasing that weird side of everything and being authentically weird? Like, what happened to it? I just don't get it. Maybe I'm just a little bit like too passionate about this stuff and like about art in general, but like, oh shit, wait, I'm done drawing. All right, so I wanted to come outside to like talk about this because I feel like it's like a much more like intimate space, you know? sitting here, it's snowing, it's cold as fuck, you know. It's literally December. It's like minus like 20, I think, right now. But anyways, when it comes to like all of this gentrification stuff that I keep just like going on and on about, I just like wanted to say that it's mostly just like the corporations who are right now controlling the media, who are right now taking care of like what really we get to see as a population, specifically like when it comes to the art department, especially when it comes to like animation, when it comes to the things that we see and all that stuff. But I feel like what we need to focus on specifically is more on the art that is done by artists outside of those corporations. Because corporations sanitize the work that we see that they do. Like, it's obvious. Like, when you see an animated show, like, I don't know, what's a show that is like a hot topic right now? Like, Has-Been Hotel. Has-Been Hotel, even though it's an indie animation, it's endorsed by Amazon, and Amazon obviously is changing a few things of the show that they don't want their brand to be associated with because their name appears at the front of it. Or at least I think that was like season 1. I think like season 2 is like Vivzy Pop made her own cute little like animation studio, but I could be wrong, I'm not really sure. Or like, for example, with Adventure Time. Actually, you know what? Like The Legend of Korra. The Legend of Korra, the reason that the show was literally an atrocity, even though it wasn't that bad, is because they thought every season was going to be their last, because the corporation said you only have one season, do the most you can with it, and that's why every season just got worse and worse. They got messy and messier, even though like the story of Korra could have been like had so much potential and things like that. But yeah, I feel like we just need to do that, and also like focus on making like weird art and art that is like interesting and like cool, because I feel like we have a lot of potential as creators, and we have a lot of potential as artists and the stuff that we do. And I feel like we can do that if we stop focusing on trying to be convenient and trying to be like viral and things like that, but focus more on like what makes our art fun, what makes things fun, like experiment and trying new things, you know? And I know that everyone can do it. And it's not something that is like new age or is like this super cool like response to it, but at least it's the most that we can do. And I feel like that is like one of the most beautiful things that we can do as artists. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to, or don't. I don't really care. And bye. Okay. Bro, there's like so much fucking snow here. Oh my god. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Bro, it got on my eyes. Shit, this hat was supposed to be better.